Should I just see how this sounds?
Yeah, see how it sounds.
Okay, I ain't no professional here. You should do the intro of my video right now.
Wait, what's the intro?
I don't know. Tell them what we're doing right
Wait,
now.
I don't even know what this video is.
We did not prep for this at all, so.
We're winging it so hardcore. I've never winged like this in my life.
So what this video is going to be when I was going through my divorce and just the whole process, like not even just the divorce, but like the years leading up to the divorce and pretty much the year right before the divorce. Like, well, I got divorced in July, but pretty much like September to April, like that period, that was like the most critical time, I would say. And different people in my life played different roles in helping me get through this process. And I think we're going to talk about those people. And then also maybe giving some advice on if you know somebody who's going through a hard time, like how you can be a good friend to those people. That's what this video is about. If you couldn't tell, Kaitlyn's on the phone and we're just chatting about this. Kaitlyn thought this would be a helpful video for people. Obviously, I needed people in my life to like help me through a really freaking dark time. Okay, so I think I'm going to talk about 4 different people, but they're kind of in 3 different categories. So the first person, and I won't say their real names because, you know, who should we call the first person?
AJ.
Oh, AJ. Okay. The first person we'll call AJ. And actually, AJ is the person that I referenced in my divorce video. I would say she was like the main person. And I talked to her every day, FaceTiming her literally whenever I wanted. And like I said in my previous videos, she had the capacity to be able to pick up the phone and like help me through all that, which was so gracious of her. And I don't know, she saved me in those ways. She was the friend that allowed me to just like process all of my questions, like ask the same questions over and over, and just gave me a lot of hope in knowing that my life wasn't over. I mean, I call her my guardian angel a lot.
I mean, I've obviously never met AJ, but I remember when you told me her role in your life at that time, I was like, that is so wonderful that Sharon had this person. But actually, can you talk more about how, like, the context of why she became that person for you? How did AJ become your guardian angel?
Yeah, so AJ was an old church person that I didn't know at the old church. If you're not familiar with my story, I got divorced because my ex is trans. If you want to see the whole story, here's my divorce video. I mentioned in the video that my ex was the pastor's first child. So AJ was somebody that used to babysit my ex. And so that's how they knew each other. And so when we moved to the Southeast, AJ lived in the Southeast and still does. And so she ended up living close to where we live. We had this friendship and relationship right off the bat because AJ really cared for my ex. AJ's actually older than us. Like, she's an empty nester now. I really did see her as like an older sister or even just like an auntie. She really cared for us in a different way than my friends would because she was older. And then also AJ was not and is not part of my immediate friendship community. And so she was more removed from everybody, which was really nice.
So AJ sits between, like, she's not your mom, but she wasn't your peer. She's not your peer.
Yeah.
So she sits like in between your mom and your actual friend.
Yeah, for sure. And she lived close enough to us that I could see her in person if I wanted to, which was actually really helpful.
Yeah, I remember that day. I think it was the beach day. But it was the day that you and your ex got in a huge fight and you were like, I'm leaving. You just texted me that. So I drove to your house. I sat outside your house. I was like, do you want to come have a sleepover with me in my dinky little apartment?
Wait, that's so, like, you're literally a time capsule because I don't remember that.
And then
so
you
nice
said, like,
of you.
oh, if I'm actually not going to, like, stay at my house, if I'm leaving my home, I'm going to go see AJ. And AJ lives, like, 5 hours away.
No, it was like 3.5, but it was still
3.5.
Yeah.
So I was like, why would you drive all the way over there when you could just have a sleepover 20 minutes away? But obviously, like, AJ knows everything.
Yeah.
So at that time,
you didn't know everything
we were having
yet.
a huge fight.
Yeah.
You just needed to go somewhere with somebody who knew everything.
Yeah.
And you could, like, fully take off all the armor, all the shielding that you were carrying.
Yeah. For sure. It was nice that I had her, and then she became my person that I could speak freely with because she knew everything. That's so nice of you to offer a sleepover. See, I don't remember.
Yeah, I felt really dinky because, you know, like, I sleep on a full-size bed. You were like a real adult.
You're a real adult too. Yeah, so AJ was definitely like the main person in that way where I could just talk to her every day and be very free to share any thoughts that I had. And she was definitely just very much like supporting me and like helping me through everything while being very like reasonable and sound too, you know? Like she wasn't just like affirming everything that I said. She just, not that she didn't, but she was a really good sounding board. Like it was really helpful to talk to her through everything.
What do you mean by like sounding board? forward?
Like, I think when I asked her questions that I didn't know the answer to and she didn't know the answer to, when I wanted her to like tell me something that I wanted to hear and she didn't know the answer to those things, like she was pretty honest about that and said like, I don't know, but I think this, or I don't think we'll ever know the answer to that, but I do believe this. Like, you know, like she answered my questions very satisfactorily without having like an actual answer, because she didn't make stuff up just to like make me feel better. Like she was honest, but it was still very comforting and very validating.
What kind of questions were you asking her at that point?
Like at what point do you think that I'm allowed to leave? Or like, do you think that I'm not a loving wife if I don't accept my ex as they are, you know, like stuff like that? Or like, do you think that I should stay? Or like, how do you think God feels about all of this right now? Or do you think it's going to be okay? Like, do you think my marriage is going to be okay? Like stuff like that. A lot of questions where the answer would be like, dude, I don't know, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that was AJ. Should we move on to you?
I guess.
Kaitlyn doesn't have a pseudonym, it's just Kaitlyn.
I've been exposed.
Kaitlyn was my friend from church. We served together and we were both quite free in our schedules. So we played a lot, which was really nice. Yeah, that was nice. So Kaitlyn was my friend who didn't know everything, but knew there was like some bad things going on. When did I tell you everything?
In a Trader Joe's parking lot. That's really? Not when, that's where.
Do you remember like what month it was?
It must have been after your birthday.
Okay, so March sometime. So it's pretty much after everything was decided, probably.
Yeah, because when you told me, you were like, I'm getting a divorce. I'm like, oh no, because you had been sharing like, hey, please pray for my marriage. So like we were praying for your marriage, but I didn't know
like how bad it was.
Then you were like, I'm getting a divorce. I was like, okay, like how can we pray about this or whatever? Like I didn't know that it was like you had decided. And then you were like, my ex is trans. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a whole different way of thinking about what was happening in your life for many, many years.
You were the friend that lived near me because all of my close friends lived in Chicago and I was not in Chicago. So it was helpful to have a friend who I could call. And again, like our schedules were super open. So we just like hung out all the time whenever. And even late at night, we would just like get ice cream and sit in the car and talk about how depressing life is. And so I think that was just really nice to have someone to talk about that with. And you did a really good job of helping me talk about stuff without knowing all the details and just providing a space for me to like ask questions more vaguely, but also still like have a conversation about it, you know? Like you never made me feel like I had to tell you everything for us to talk about those things.
Yeah, I probably did want the juice though.
Yeah. You love the juice.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I remember, like, I was really drawn to being your friend at that time because you were so fun. And I was working for the church at the time. And ministry was fun, but it was really hard. And I felt really lonely in it in a lot of ways. And when you were like, let's play poker. At first, I was like, are we allowed to play poker? We played poker like after church sometimes, like at that free league. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so freaking fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And like I remember like you and your ex hosted band holiday party, Christmas party at your house, and that was really fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
But we would even just like go and walk your dog in a park, and I would just come with you.
Yeah, it was a lot of like quality time together.
Quality time.
We would like bake random cookies and stuff that we wanted to try.
Oh yeah, we went on a huge baking kick.
Yeah, you were like my little friend. That's what I'm like picturing this image that we're creating, that you're just like my little buddy.
Yeah, I mean like I really needed you because my co-intern had left. Like my life felt hard too, not to the degree that your life was hard. I really needed you to be my buddy.
Wait, that's so nice. I'm glad that I could have been there for you too, because it sounds like we needed each other, but we didn't really like know how much we needed each other.
Like
so corny.
Yeah, so corny still. Okay, but I was thinking when you told me, oh, I'm getting a divorce, like what am I gonna do? I'm a divorcee now or whatever. Yeah. You were like, where should I go? Like, do I go back to Chicago? At the time, I was also kind of at a crossroads of like, what am I doing with my life? Do I want to be in ministry forever? Where am I going to go? And I just like really felt, it was like one of those God moments to just like be available. And not in like a holy way or anything, but I was like, oh, strangely, like maybe this is like timing aligning that I can just say like, where do you want to go? And I'll just go with you.
Yeah. Feels like a Ruth Naomi situation.
I guess, yeah.
But it did feel really natural for us to kind of plan our life together, to be like, let's just go somewhere together.
Yeah. I definitely didn't pray about it or anything like that, but I felt very at peace. I was like, I think I could do this for at least a year.
So when we decided to like move to Philly together or move to Europe together or whatever, you were doing that for me. Like that was because of me. I mean, like it worked out because it matched your life phase, but it was more like an intentional, like I want to be there for Sharon in this way.
I think you wouldn't have let me do that if it was just for you, though.
Yeah, if I got that vibe.
If you got that vibe.
Yeah.
Because I think I was very much like I think I'm not going to work for the church anymore. I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I still really wanted to be open to like whatever God had for me. And I was like, actually, like, if you need to leave North Carolina, like, you shouldn't do that alone. And like, I don't want to be alone either. So let's go. Let's go somewhere.
Yeah, that's so nice. I think when I decided that we were going to split and I was just going to like have to figure out the next phase of my life, and when we were talking about, oh, maybe we could go somewhere together, it did turn into a very exciting thing. Like it was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we were genuinely looking forward to it. We were looking at flats in London. Like it really felt like we could do anything we wanted, and it was so exciting. So
okay, but the reason why our codes matched in that way is because I just like to like say big dreams, but it's really hard for me to execute. But Sharon is the executor. Like if you say something, she's like, okay, like let's get it done. Let's like, what's the A, B, C to get to like our destination? So I think that's really the only reason why that would have worked, because I'm just like on board to be spontaneous, and you're like, okay, if we're gonna do this, let's do it, and this is how we're gonna get it done.
Yeah, I made a spreadsheet for us to look up places we could rent.
You had this weird obsession with Cornwall, and
I did.
I was like, I mean, it's cute, but I guess I could be on board with a Cornwall obsession too.
You were seriously so open to anything. I think having a friend like Kaitlyn is so rare. Like if you are going through a hard time, or you know someone who's going through a hard time, like having someone like Kaitlyn who is just like down to like do whatever, that's not something that everyone has. So I was very lucky to have you. For you, it was like our friendship was not burdensome to you. It was like fun and like full of opportunities. Like that's how I feel like you kind of saw our friendship. Let's do whatever we want for a year or whatever. But I think just the general vibe of my friendship with Kaitlyn was just like, I have a friend who lives near me who is willing to just like let me spend quality time with her without having to explain everything or like make it such a big deal. And it's just like, I don't want to like diminish our friendship to just be like, you were the fun friend, but you were kind of the fun friend in a way that like meant a lot to me, you know? So
it's so funny because I would never see myself as a fun friend. I thought you were the fun friend in our relationship.
Wait, that is funny because I'm not really a fun friend either. Like I'm kind of boring.
Girl, don't talk about my friend like that.
All right, well, don't talk about my friend like that.
I will say that from my perspective, when, you know, Philly obviously didn't happen, you reconnected with Daniel, you were driving home, you're to Chicago to get married, and I was like, oh, that thing that I was excited for, which was moving to Philly or abroad with you, is not going to happen, but I'm so happy for my friend.
Yeah.
But I was worried at that moment, like, what is our friendship gonna be based on? Because we're not living in the same place anymore. You're starting this whole new life. You're going back to your old friends. Like, you don't really need me as your friend anymore.
You had a little thought like that.
Yeah, I definitely had a thought like that. And I was like, I'm really happy for Sharon if this is kind of where our friendship ends, because she's going back to this community. That's okay. And like, would be sad, but like, that's okay. But then you and Daniel came, and I met Daniel. I was like, wait, Daniel is great. And I'm so happy that Sharon is with Daniel. That's kind of when I made an intentional choice. Was like, okay, I'm going to try and still be a part of Sharon's life. Deciding to come to your engagement, like even now, making an effort to come back and seeing your kids as they grow up. I don't know. That's kind of how I've seen our relationship shift.
And we haven't skipped a beat, right?
Yeah.
That is special.
Yeah, it's special. I don't really know. I think it's just like the timing was right for our friendship to happen, even though circumstances were not ideal. So maybe that's just like God's grace.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, I have to go, boo. I'll probably just record the rest of it by myself, right? Okay, thank you, bye.
Bye.
I'm back. It's the next day. I don't know if you can tell, but it is night. Although it's like night when it's 5 p.m. and it's quite depressing. Anyways, finishing the video. The last two people I wanted to talk about are my two best friends. Obviously, the people in Chicago, which is where I'm from, didn't really know everything until later. And a lot of that was because my ex told me not to tell. And so I really did want to honor that, which is also why it was really nice to have AJ, who did know everything. I will say that I have a good amount of friends here, which I'm really lucky about, but I have two friends that I would consider to be like my sisters that I've just known forever. We've been friends since freshman and sophomore year of high school. And I just feel like we've been through a lot together, and none of us have sisters, so at least for me, I really do consider them my sisters. It was hard not to be able to talk to them, but there were still moments with them that I'll never forget. For one of them, so I did tell her a little bit sooner than other people, and I remember and this was such a crazy situation that I didn't really struggle with like validating myself about it because I objectively knew that it was just such a crazy situation. But I think when I was telling her, I think it's because she's like my sister and I don't know, maybe I was feeling extra safe or extra vulnerable or something. But I said to her, and this was the first time that I said this out loud, this is a big deal, right? Am I getting emotional about this? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I asked her, this is a big deal, right? Like, I'm not being dramatic about this or something. And she was like, Sharon, of course this is a big deal. And I don't know, I think I just remember that moment because obviously I knew it was a big deal, and obviously other people who had known before really validated that it was a big deal, and like objectively it was such a big deal. So like it's not something that I really struggled with, but being with my friend who knows me, who knows my heart, just hearing it from her that it was a big deal and that I was going through something terrible and that she was like sad with me. I don't know. It just kind of hit different. It doesn't seem like that was like a huge thing, but I really remember that. And it was just the first time that I kind of expressed like a really intrusive thought that I was being dramatic or something. And here's my best friend telling me, no, you're not being dramatic. This is a big deal. With the other friend, I ended up telling her quite late, like maybe like 5 days before my birthday, when that spiritual grandmother that I mentioned passed away. I really wanted to tell my friends in person, so that's just kind of how it worked out too. With this friend, she was actually quite close to my ex's family and lived in the same town as them. And so we had a different context in that way. And so when the spiritual grandmother passed away, we drove down together to go to her wake. That's actually when I told her, like in the car. I think with this friend, she was the one that I was with when it turned midnight on my birthday, right after my ex had decided to transition and we had decided to officially end our marriage. If this conversation happened at like 11:53, I was in the car with my friend at 11:58, and then it turned midnight on my birthday. So this friend was there with me through the wake and the funeral and my birthday, and we just spent a lot of time together. After my ex and I split officially too, whenever I would visit home, I would hang out with her a lot, and she gave me a lot of hope that life could be fun again too. This friend also visited me over the summer. I think it was July 2019, so it was before I even started therapy and all that. She knew I was going through a hard time in my marriage, also was super respectful about not forcing me to tell her what was going on, but knew something was wrong. She came to visit, we went to Asheville and jumped in the river and just had really good quality time together. The three of us are best friends, we'll always be best friends. Like I said, we've gone through a lot together, and obviously when you're friends for like almost 2 decades, you just experience a lot of really hard things and really good things too. But these two girls were both my bridesmaids in my first wedding and my second wedding. So even if I couldn't tell them or talk to them about it all the time, I know they love me so much, and they were supporting me through prayer and just being available when and if I were able to talk to them about it, either vaguely or specifically. Yeah, there's nothing like your childhood best friends, you know? Anyways, those are the people that kind of come to mind. Obviously, there are so many more people that are important to me, and I could just go down a list and share what is so special about all of my friendships and all of my relationships. But for the purposes of this video, I just wanted to mention those people because I'll just kind of remember those things forever. Anyways, I thought it'd be helpful to just kind of summarize and maybe give some tips on how to help other people. If you know somebody who's going through a really hard time, just to think about what kind of friend you might want to be to them. So for me, I had my guardian angel, I had my really good quality time friend, and then I had my two best friends. I will say that the guardian angel role is really hard. That one, I feel like AJ was just seriously so nice to pick up the phone and just to like hear me process out loud. I am an external processor. The fact that she was able to do that for me and be at my beck and call was seriously such a gift. I feel like most people can't do that, especially if you're in a phase of life where you have young children or you have a demanding job or something like that. But luckily, she was able to do that for me. If you can be that person for somebody, I will say that your friend or whoever you're thinking of will never forget that. Having like unlimited patience and unlimited capacity to just listen. And you know, it's temporary, but it just means so much when someone's going through a hard time. Make sure you take care of yourself though. Set some boundaries if you need to. The quality time friend, my Kaitlyn, that role I feel like is so important too. And that one might be more manageable. Again, I was really lucky to have a friend who had like a really flexible schedule, and if it's not obvious, my job is really flexible too. It was perfect that we could just like hang out during the day or hang out late at night, and it didn't matter. But if you have the capacity to provide quality time for your friend who's going through a hard time, I think it's just so special that you can make this person laugh when they're in their darkest moments, that you can make them think about other things other than their situation, or if they do want to talk about it, that you can still provide a space where you guys can be doing something and then have a little bit more of a lighthearted conversation about it. Obviously, our personalities were really similar in that way, where I felt like we could joke about how ridiculous my situation was. I don't think Kaitlyn was somebody that I really cried with that much. Although she might remember differently, because apparently I don't remember anything when it comes to that season with Kaitlyn. I feel like she remembers all these things that I don't remember. So maybe I did cry with her a few times, but my main memory with her is that she provided such a light and a joy during such a dark time. If I didn't call her my quality time friend, I would call her my soul-filling friend. Being that person for somebody and providing some kind of light to them, giving them some kind of joy, that's another thing that person will never forget. And then obviously your best friends. If you have a best friend who is going through something horrendous and you don't know everything, I mean, you know your best friend best. So keep doing whatever you're doing in your friendship because you guys are best friends. But I think for me, what I feel like is irreplaceable in my best friendships is just the history that we have and how well they know me. And I think when you're having a really hard time and you start questioning yourself, or you start having all these intrusive thoughts, or you just don't know what to do, these are the moments where your best friends come in to remind you who you are and to remind you, hey, you're not a dramatic person. Hey, of course this is a big deal. Hey, let's go home and just sulk together. Let me pray for you. Do you want to cry or do you just want to laugh? Like, these are the people that have known you for so long that you can just be yourself with them. And so let your friend be exactly how they are. And maybe they're not being the best version of themselves right now because they're going through a hard time. But I think because you've known them for so long, or because you are their best friend, you know at baseline who they are. And so don't forget that. Show them a lot of grace, give them time, challenge when you need. My friends challenged me too. And then when the situation's over, it's just another thing you went through together. And obviously I'll never forget that. Last thing I'll say, if you're the one going through a hard time, I really encourage you not to shut down and put yourself in a cave and don't show up for people. I know that's easier said than done sometimes, and sometimes you need to do that. But in general, don't push people away, lean on people for help, find somebody who can be there for you. Try to find someone maybe who's gone through something similar. That's kind of why I make these videos, because I want to reach people who went through something similar or can relate to some of the things I'm talking about. Even connecting with random people on YouTube might make you feel less lonely. So just don't isolate yourself from people. If you need, comment below. We'll chat in the comments at least. Okay, that's all. Thank you for watching. Friendships are so important. I'll probably make a lot more videos in the future just about friendships in general. I think adult friendships are something that people don't talk about nearly enough. I'm very passionate about it. I just really think friendships are so important. Subscribe if you want, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.